A major shift in the race for U.S. Senate. New polling shows the underdog for Democrats could now be in the lead.
Folks are making up their minds. Folks are starting to tune in. So you're going to see some different results from what we've seen over the past 6 months or so.
The poll also shows a tight Republican primary getting even tighter. We break down the numbers and what it means for the choice facing Texas voters.
By doing all this, they're going to scare people from the process.
Millions of Texas voter records turned over to the Justice Department. What was shared, why the feds want the data, and why some officials worry this could affect our elections. Big changes could be coming for Texas hemp businesses, including huge fees and a ban on popular products. Critics call it a business killer, but supporters say it's necessary regulation. We break down the debate.
Produced from the Capitol in Austin and airing statewide, this is the award-winning State of Texas.
Hello, and thank you for joining us. I'm Josh Hinkle. We are 1 month away from the start of early voting for the Texas primary, and we're getting a glimpse at where the candidates for U.S. Senate stand. A new poll from Nexstar and Emerson College polling shows Austin area State Representative James Talarico leading Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. The poll of more than 400 likely Democratic primary voters shows Talarico with 47% support, 9 points ahead of Crockett. The poll has a margin of error of plus or minus 4.8%. This is the first time that a publicly released poll has shown Talarico leading Crockett, and the margin of the lead is surprising. We spoke with Matt Taglia. He's the senior director of Emerson College polling. We asked him to dig deeper into the numbers.
Yeah, it was a little surprising to see Talarico up by this margin. However, I will point out that there are still 15% undecided, and this is not necessarily a done deal. There is space here for Crockett to come up. We do plan on polling this race again before the primary. But I think that just overall, voters have tuned in more than in earlier in the month or in December of 2025. We've seen folks, especially in December, folks are distracted. They aren't necessarily thinking about the Senate race. So I think as we've seen folks turn their attention to the race, and as the races and the campaigns themselves have really begun in earnest, I think that that has had a major effect, plus additional media coverage of the races. I think we're starting to see some selection here, some folks finally starting to make up their mind. And yet there is still space there. There is still a ways to go. What we're seeing here is that Talarico is winning among Hispanic voters and white voters by not a substantial margin. So there is still space there for Crockett, but he is winning those voters, majorities of those voters nonetheless. Meanwhile, Black voters are supporting Crockett with nearly 80% of the vote there. So I do think that she has consolidated that vote. We also see that more educated voters support Talarico, and that men support Talarico at higher rates. We see women are split between Talarico and Crockett. I think that right there, the female vote, I think that's where Crockett could also make some inroads. It is almost certain to be a majority female electorate on election day and in early voting. So again, there's still a ways to go in this race, and there still is space for Crockett here.
At a campaign event in Austin Thursday morning, Talarico downplayed the poll numbers.
I said on the first day of this campaign, I've said it every day since, that we are the underdog in this race, both in the primary and in the general.
In a statement, Crockett said, "Though I have doubts about the overall validity of this data and it fails to paint the full picture, there's only one Democrat the poll shows beating a Republican, and it's me."
We do plan on polling this race again. We'll see if these results hold, but you can call us an outlier, and that's fine, because we might be in this case. Again, people make up their minds and things shift. The electorate is not static.
We also asked about the Republican race for Senate. The results show Attorney General Ken Paxton in a virtual tie with incumbent Senator John Cornyn. Congressman Wesley Hunt polled third. No one is close to the threshold needed to avoid a runoff.
I think that we have seen pretty consistently that this is more of a two-horse race here between Paxton and Cornyn. We do see that Hunt's number is up, but I do wonder whether he could capture enough of that undecided vote. Now, that is a substantial number of undecided, 29%. There's still vote there up for grabs, but I think it's going to be very tough for Hunt to make up the difference there when these other candidates are performing so much better than he is, and when he might have trouble differentiating himself with some of these other candidates. Nevertheless, I expect this race to go to a runoff regardless of who the top two candidates are. But right now, as things stand, it looks like this is a Paxton Cornyn race that will lead to a runoff between those two. I think that this is a very unique Republican primary here where the incumbent is really fighting for his life. And he very well may pull it out. He very well might make it to the runoff. That's probably very likely. But that runoff is going to be tough because those Hunt voters look a little bit more like Paxton voters. So Cornyn's going to be in for an uphill battle in that hypothetical runoff, I think, as well.
Next Saturday, you'll have a chance to hear from the two Democrats in the race for Senate. Nexstar Media is partnering with the Texas AFL-CIO to live stream a debate between Jasmine Crockett and James Talarico. The hour-long debate will happen at the union's convention. This will be the first time Crockett and Talarico will face off on the debate stage. You can watch it live on this Nexstar station's website or CTV streaming app on Saturday, January 24th at 2 p.m. Central. The poll also looked at the race for governor with the assumption that both incumbent Greg Abbott and Democratic State Representative Gina Hinojosa will win their primaries. The poll shows Abbott leading Hinojosa by 8 points in the November election.
We see Abbott here just over that 50% mark. So that's a pretty big number in terms of polling. When you see that someone is commanding a majority of the electorate, that's a bit of a sign. Now, it's not an overwhelming majority. He's not at 55% or 60% or anything like that, but he does have a little bit of an edge here. I think that as we get further into the election, as we get into the summer, we'll start to see a little bit more from the campaigns. My suspicion here is that Hinojosa does not have the same name ID as Abbott. I'm guessing that her campaign has really not started in earnest for the general election, as it shouldn't have yet, really. So that's not to say that this race is not competitive at all, but right now, as things stand, Abbott is in a good position, and I would feel pretty good with these results if I were him.
While Abbott and Hinojosa are polling within single digits of each other, there is a wide difference when it comes to campaign fundraising. Hinojosa reported that she raised more than $1 million in the 10 weeks since she launched her run for governor. Her campaign says the average donation was under $50. Governor Abbott reported raising more than $22 million in the period between July and December. Abbott's campaign says he has nearly $106 million on hand in his re-election bid. Texas turns over data on millions of voters to the Justice Department. Supporters call it election integrity. Opponents call it a threat to voter privacy. We dig into the debate and what's at stake. It's a regulatory overhaul that could reshape the market for hemp in Texas. It comes with new rules, skyrocketing fees, and a ban on popular products. The plan has some businesses pushing back and fighting to survive. Many Texans struggle to pay for health care, with high costs causing some to skip needed care. But there is some encouraging news. We look at the work to help people cover the cost of care.